Nice to see you. Yeah.
Teams. Find your way down here.
Thank you.
Lost
Go down and check them going. I'm all right. See if they want to get dinner. Whatever you want to do.
Let's adjourn.
All righty.
Hi, Nick.
All right, everybody, we are recording. Nick, we're gonna keep you off of mute, let you jump in when you need to. We are called to order the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency meeting on April 15th at 4 p.m. Roll call, Ally.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
He is here.
Tim Robinson,
Yes.
Craig Leggett,
Here.
Trisha Rogers. Here. John Taplin,
Here.
Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum. We have 7 out of 10 present.
Good. Moving on, everybody received the read ahead for 2 minutes. Previously, first, the March 5th IDA special meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes. Brian,
I'll second it.
second. Tim, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passed. Looking at the minutes of the March 18th IDA board meeting, I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes. Brian, second.
Second it.
Tim, all in favor? Opposed? Right. That passes. Treasurer's report, accounts payable, Tim.
Sure, as you've got an accounts payable list in front of you. We do have one item we are removing from here, that's orbital fire. For 5088, we're getting a new invoice, so we're not paying that one. All other ones I've reviewed. And would open up any questions on the payable.
Column transfer,
What about it?
just a typo. Transfer.
Where are you looking?
Are you? Yeah.
Oh, under
Yeah.
and
Well,
what's,
we have an update on the canal side. Reimbursables.
Yes.
so noted. You don't want to transfer it, you want to transfer it? So noted. We'll make that.
Why should pay out his salary?
So with that, I'd ask for a motion to accept the payables.
So moved.
Will that change?
Greg,
Second.
second. Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Do a roll call. Al?
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
Yes.
Tim Robinson,
Yes.
Craig Leggett.
Yeah.
Trisha Rogers. Yes. John Taplin,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yeah. Good. Moving on to year-to-date financial report, Tim.
Sure. You have before you the balance sheet and the income statement. I am gonna ask that, anybody who has questions, we all get the package well ahead of time, or ahead of time, I should say, most of the times well ahead of time. I'd ask if questions could be asked ahead of the meeting. They can still be brought up at the meeting, but oftentimes it's hard to answer a question right here at the meeting time. So, we certainly can take questions this time around. In the future, I'd like people to reach out to me if they have questions and Ally at the same time, and then we can address them. And then we'll bring up your question in front of the board too, when we're presenting the financials. But you have before you the balance sheet as of March 31, 2024. You can see that our balance sheet is very healthy. We did have a nominal loss through $5,000 through March 31st, which brought our total equity down by about $5,000. On the income statement, you'll see we collected some interest income through end of March of 22,000 plus our lease income at the canal side. Gives us the total revenue item, and then you'll see at the back where we're down, a net loss of $4,700 or approximately $5,000 at that time. With some project fees hopefully coming and try to offset some of that small loss year to date. But it is an improvement over last year to date. Significantly. Certainly open it up to any questions.
So I did submit a list of questions.
We made a list of questions.
I submitted a list of questions and I was told they'd be addressed at this meeting.
Okay,
Sure. Yep,
Sure.
absolutely. So the first question he asked was, cash flow. We are currently looking at cash flow. The reason for that question is because, as we know, both of the grants are paid in arrears, so we have to front the money somehow, and then we pay back, we get the money back from the grants. So we started researching that. What we're looking at is when you take into account, if you look on the balance sheet of the money market account, which has 1.7 mil, and then the checking account, which has 256,000. In November, 30 November, we were at 2.036 mil. Now at 31 March, we're actually at 2,064,000. So we're up 28,000 in those 5 months. So using actuals for 5 months, we're actually up. And so what we're looking at now is the next phase is we've had months where we've earned 170,000 at the end of February for those two accounts. At the end of December, it was down 115,000. So we're trying to figure out what is our basically monthly flow of what we got intake and outtake, so we can figure out actually how much money that we have to front on these grants. As you know, the engineering for the rest of this year, there's gonna be some money. The real concern is construction, which is gonna be in the millions and millions. That part, that's what we're leading into. So we're gonna be building a lot of data for this board to talk about in the fall. So right now, we're just building. We will talk about the grant. We haven't even been approved for the second phase. We don't know what the payment schedule is yet for that, so variables upon variables. We also thought using our money was the best way to do this. But when you just, as Tim just mentioned, we just earned 22,000 in 1 quarter, take that over a year. It's actually not gonna cost us that much to borrow money short term. So we still have that variable on the table. So a ton of variables. You will see a cash flow document here within the May is what we're targeting, the May board meeting to continue these conversations.
Well, I think that little interest, no, we'll be borrowing at 6, 7, 8% interest.
yeah, the interest.
Short terms,
It's not short term.
yeah.
When you get into some bigger numbers, it's not gonna be short term.
Well, right, and this is where we have 2 grants. They're each, you can do quarterly, so if we can split them 45 days each, then you've got this flow where we can overcome that longer term.
So money will be coming in as the money's
No,
going out, is
I-
what you're
I-
saying?
I will qualify that. We can submit the payments quarterly.
Yes,
The problem is, we don't know what the turnaround time and the reimbursement is. It
That's
could be anywhere from
correct.
6 months to a year to
Yeah.
get the turnaround. We don't know what the time frame
so
is.
trying to solve that here is not gonna happen because we haven't been approved for the second grant. Once we have all those variables here in the next couple of months, hence why this discussion will continue. But there's a lot more variables we don't have right now. That's why we're not throwing this in front of you yet to make decisions because we don't have all the variables.
And then can probably give you some guidance on that.
Yeah,
too.
and we just, since we're on that topic for the HUD grant, we actually just submitted last week the first reimbursement, and we're gonna see how long that takes. So again, build in variables for the board so that we can make an educated decision in the fall.
I think what you just said, the difference between what we're earning and what we're spending on interest would bring it down to about 2%.
Would.
I'm not sure about that.
And we don't have what it's gonna cost us to borrow in 9 to 10 months. We don't need to borrow this year. It's the construction, which starts in March of next year. Build in debt variables now. We'll get into this heavier in the fall when we have more of the answers, so you guys can make a more informed decision. All right,
That was one item.
that was one item. The other one was a monthly P and L. Again, that is another document that we can bring to the board should you desire. The problem is, as checks come and go or checks received in the mail will impact that drastically. If the board does want to see that, we can, but it's gonna be a lot of questions and that will be solved the week after because a check came in and whatnot. So that's really one of those challenges. What does the board want to see? What we have been doing for a while is the year to date. which kind of alleviates some of those, week or two items. If the board would like to see a monthly, we can. We will ask a lot of questions, but the year-to-date will give us the answers of those questions.
I think monthly shows us where ebbs and flows are,
Yes,
and I think that's very important to see.
it is, and
I
cash
think that's
flow.
more important than,
I
more
think,
important than seeing what happens in average over, in this case, it's 3 months.
right. And I would agree with the cash flow, the real cash flow, ebb and flow for what we wanted to see, which is the grants in the fall next year. And that is more important than what is entered into QuickBooks.
I take exception to that. I think knowing what your monthly cash flow is without the grants is important too.
Yes,
I think that's what he said.
that's what I said, yes.
That's what he said.
That's not what I heard.
You guys, well, only you can control that. So I agree. So I
I
am,
got my hearing aids in, so.
I was gonna ask that question next.
I probably am hearing better than they are.
But you did get dental work in, so you're got some vibrating going on. No, but no, David, it's a valid question. It's, we'd love to, Craig, we'll go around the room instead of.
Right.
Come back.
Think about hearing aids.
I've got one too. I just don't know. It's the high pitch one. It doesn't matter. These,
So the monthly,
yes,
that's just a QuickBook report, isn't
It
it?
is.
yes,
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Throw it in.
right.
Yeah,
So-
we've never presented it before.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's never been presented.
It's never been presented.
But
and
it's always
there.
The questions.
It's easy to produce. We could certainly.
We absolutely can, but the
But-
questions that are gonna come from that is gonna be, well, yeah, the check didn't come in, it's 2 weeks, that 20,000 loss is actually $4,000 loss, and it will answer itself within weeks, and so those are we can do this, but when you ask those questions, and we tell you, it's just, year to date is a much better barometer of how we're doing this year, and then the cash flow document that which we will provide, which is cash in and out of the 2 accounts that we bring to bear for grants next year. Those are the barometers that I would strongly consider. But absolutely, I would absolutely entertain a motion to provide monthly P&Ls on the board meetings should we desire.
Since I'm paying, I'll make that motion.
Second,
That was a good idea.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make it graph.
No, we will. Cash flow, yes. Cash flow absolutely should be a graph. P&L monthly, we just keep it at that report. Good, Alec, good to go. Alrighty. Year-to-date financial reports, would entertain a motion to accept those? Okay. Second? Tricia? Any further discussion? Turn by your time, Brian.
No further discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we do a roll call for Nick, please?
Yes, Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
Yes.
Tim Robinson.
Yes.
Fred Leggett,
Yes.
Trisha Rogers, John Tackland,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
I thought you had
And the third question, just if you look at the profit and loss statement, the employee benefits, health insurance, that is the net number, 11,120.
That was your other question.
Is it? Alrighty. Moving on, 2023 audit report, Tim.
Yeah, we have submitted it to the Audit and Finance Committee. And we will present a final version as long as Brian and Ginny are fine with it, which Brian's already said he was, but I'll wait for Ginny. And then by May 1st, so we can tell the auditor to finalize it for our May 20th meeting. So we expect to present to the board the final audit May 20th.
And the correction they won't make until next year, you said.
Correct. It's not a correction, but they won't take something out until next year. But
Just for reference, that correction was less than 1% of our imbalance sheet, so comfortable. Well, can have that
actually,
discussion.
it was to do with the lease.
What?
The lease with that we have on the.
Oh, that one, that,
There was a lease
The
and
audit
then there was an
person, okay.
amendment to the lease on the side property. And they thought we should have done a new lease when all the dates and information was in the amendment and it was in the original lease too.
Basically, you need to read the lease in conjunction with the amendment, as opposed to we didn't replace and supersede and enter into a new lease agreement. We just modified the terms of the lease, but the terms that they were wanted were in the original lease agreement. So
So
they needed to reference two documents and they apparently prefer to reference one.
That was the problem. We said, so we went back to them, asked them to remove it, and they would not. It's in our letter to the
Last
board,
page.
in the draft, but it will be finalized as such. And they said they would remove it next year. It would not be a comment. That's the only issue. Otherwise, the engagement letter or the letter to the board was satisfactory in all counts.
Good. Any final questions on the audit? See that again. All right, moving on to presentations. Everything on the foot application. Turn this over to Ally.
Yes, in your meeting packets, you guys received an application for assistance from Everything Underfoot, and included was the finding statements. Mr. Bill Smith is here to talk about his project. He is asking for the IDA's consent to approve the sales tax exemption and the mortgage exemption for his project. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it? You can stand up.
Yeah.
Everything underfoot says everything we need to know.
Good afternoon, everybody. May seem like I'm a little unprepared today, but I had a little bit of a rough day today. Not trying to tug at anybody's heartstrings, but I had to put my dog down about 4 hours ago. So, to put that in the past and to get on board with what we're doing right now,
Wait a minute, please. Okay, you can see him on the screen. You have to see him on the screen.
I have a business, it's Everything Underfoot. What we do is, in the same building that we're trying to renovate, the second and third floor, the bottom floor is a showroom for a flooring store and a remodel store. We've been in there for about 8 years, I'm guessing. The second and third floor has been undeveloped for many, many years. It's been sitting dormant, in disarray. I was looking to upgrade, to utilize that space to, bring into the area affordable housing. To possibly give our employees an opportunity to do a little bit of work in there, possibly grow our employees a little bit, maybe add a couple more employees to our roster by actually taking on a project like this. We'll also be subbing out a large majority of the work that needs to be done there, which also we anticipate if we break it down person by person that would actually be working on that job site, there could be as many as 50 people working on this project to make it come to fruition. So it's been kind of a dream of mine since we bought the building to utilize that space on the second, third floor. Just kind of makes sense that it's sitting there dormant and nothing's happened to it, that we got to do something with that space. The area is starving for apartments, affordable housing. We do own apartments in other areas, and I know the need for it. When we have a vacancy and we look to fill it, we get hundreds of responses for just one apartment. There's a lot of people out there looking for apartments right now. It's kind of shocking. We'll just put it on the marketplace and we'll get 100 responses almost every time we post an opening. So I think it's important for the area. I think what we're doing is important for employment for people in the area and help support the contractors that are available to work on our project. We are pushing hard to get minority-based businesses in to help us as much as they possibly can to kind of share whatever wealth that we can come together to make this thing happen. Is there any questions that you guys have so far?
So the 2 upper floors, 10 units altogether.
Yes.
It's in 4 combos there, and those rental prices that you put in the application are pretty much on par for what you see in the area of.
Yes, yep. Yeah, we've looked at a lot of, apartments in the area and what the prices are. We do have some apartments in like Lake Luzerne, might not be over here in Hudson Falls, and we have, some in Queensbury, but, it makes sense. And I mean, across the street, it's very, comparable to what Peter Hoffman, is doing with his, rentals. And he's been a pretty good advocate for me for, just basic information. You guys have done a lot of work with you guys and a lot of work with the community. So I kind of look at him for a little support and a little bit more knowledge than what I may have already. So, yeah, we're looking at putting in, 10 apartments total. Each floor is going to have 5 apartments on it. And the breakdown is going to be 6 one-bedrooms and 4 efficiency apartments. The one-bedroom apartments are going to average about 900 square feet. A couple of them might be a little bit over like 1,000 square feet. And the efficiency apartments is about 600-700 square feet, depending on the space. So we are also putting in an elevator. The ceiling heights are 17 feet high, so it makes the stairs pretty rigorous to get up to the second, third floor, which kind of pushes away a lot of elderly people that may benefit from our building. So to put the elevator in there just makes sense. It just makes it a little more easy accessible. To brand new staircases, what we're hoping to get in there also. We are negotiating back and forth right now with SHPO. Trying to find a happy medium point with everything we are doing there. The outside of the building will basically remain close to the same. We're going to do some cleanup on it, try to clean the brick and just do a little bit of masonry work there. But I think it'll blend in really nicely with the rest of Main Street and the businesses in there, and hopefully bring some quality tenants to the area so they can take advantage of what the area offers, the Strand Theater, the restaurants, everything that's out there, just in walking distance. I think it's a great project we're looking forward to. It's pretty critical because of the expense of it, that we get the grant, which we have been basically awarded, and whatever other help we can get through, the tax-free mortgage and everything that you guys can offer us. It means a lot to making the numbers work properly to make this project worthwhile.
Utilities included in those rental prices?
No, utilities will be separate. We do plan on insulating very well and trying to keep it as efficient as possible for everybody there. Last thing I want to do is get tenants in there to figure out that they can't afford the heating or the electrical or anything in there. So we're trying to research that, make sure that we can put enough insulation on the walls and the ceilings and have the most efficient heating sources available for them.
You were approved by the planning board,
Yes.
so you have parking in there.
The planning board has promised and has a few different locations. We haven't narrowed down exactly which one they're going to give us, but I have my word, or I have the word of the mayor and all the people on the board. And Bill Nickus is also involved in trying to legally make that work for us. We've come up with, I think they're going to lease these spaces for us at $30 a clip per month, give us, and we're trying to get a variance to knock it down to 10 parking spots for 10 units, which I think would be fine. There's a lot of localized parking, elsewhere, but those 10 spots would be, obviously paying $300 a month to hold those 10 spots for our tenants.
And just so everyone's aware, Bill Nickus did reach out to me and he did indicate that that is the plan in place. So I had a question on that contingency and I'll seek approval from the village, but I did speak with Bill and that's underway. So I do know that that's happening.
Yeah, I think I spoke to the other day too.
Yeah.
With Cleveland, so they do have a plan. And I'm pretty sure that everything's gonna fall exactly where we want it to. Pretty excited about what the village wants to do for us. I think they're very excited about the project too. I think it helps everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a little question about this because the IDA approved some things for another apartment complex earlier, several years ago. And there was discussion, if they are going to be getting these incentives, that is there any way to guarantee that rental prices will still stay within that workforce affordability? And I never knew if there was any technicality on making sure that happens, or is that just all on good faith?
Jump in on this?
Sure.
So we, with the Sun Valley Apartments incentive program, we did put a restriction that had to be not short-term rentals. We can consider the same here. As far as specific rental rates, we are in the process of drafting a white paper on that issue that we'll have for our next meeting. Remember, this is just an acceptance here, and then we'll do the public meeting supposedly May 1st, and then have the resolution for final approval. So between now and then, we can push some information out talking about local rental rates and consider whether that should be part of this resolution or not.
That's one of the things if the IDA is trying to go with this goal that Smith had put out here is, you know, is it going to be in for perpetuity as well, or at least a defined term?
Yeah, at least through the period of
Right.
the pilot. Now, this is a unique application where it's not a 10-year application because this is only sales tax exemption and mortgage tax exemption. So it's just basically upfront. So this is a little bit of a nuance we would have to think about how to handle, since there is not a 10-year pilot with this application.
Dave,
So on that, I understand what you're trying to accomplish. The problem is I don't, in my opinion, putting handcuffs on people who, this term, who don't have control of what their taxes are gonna be, may push them up over that without their desire to do that. So I think that's a problem with trying to put handcuffs on people when you don't know what's gonna happen 2-5 years down the road based on inflation rates. It doesn't look like they're coming down.
I don't think I mentioned anything about handcuffs.
Well, no, but put handcuffs on how much they can put the rent in your application, and you're putting handcuffs on. I don't talk like
that.
I don't talk like a consultant.
right, well, keep going. Anybody else have comments on those sections?
So in this case, with no pilot, does that, like usually Kingsbury would be involved too? Correct. Were they involved in the talks? Better question for Kara probably, but since this is only sales tax and mortgage tax, they are not involved in the approval process. If a pilot would be involved, then we would seek their formal concurrence.
What was the answer? Was the answer, yes? No.
Yes,
Yes, they have to be involved in the process.
they have to be involved in the process if there's the pilot is in place.
But there is no pilot, but our bylaws and process don't say except if there's no pilot. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's my
question, is I don't
know
if they
say that either.
Our process says you have to go for approvals or bring it in. Doesn't say any conditions on if this isn't involved, that isn't involved, we don't have to go through that approval process.
In the UTEP,
In Utah,
that language has been modified.
no, it doesn't say that. It says all applications shall go to the town board and the school.
Right, they're going to get notified for sure about the project. They're gonna get notice of the public hearing, they're gonna get the finding statement. Then you get the application, they can have any of that stuff. We still have to notify them of the project. But we've only saw approvals from the municipality if there's a pilot in place, so.
I thought though the whole concept of changing the UTEP was to get them brought in and communicated before they even gave approval.
So are you saying they haven't even been told yet?
They've been reached out, the town was gonna reach out.
So they,
Right, we'll know, certainly, we'll certainly re-notify them for the, public hearing.
no, but I mean, if you actually have spoke though with the town, that's what I want.
I have not spoken with the town.
I have, I've reached out to them on the pilot south. Dana Hogan is the town supervisor of Kingsbury, and, he's like, Bill, he's like, we don't believe in these pilots, and we don't want any part of it. And he's like, you can push all you want, but he's like, I'm not the only one on the board that feels that way. He did shoot down, one of Bill Nickes's, projects also, which I think he's the village attorney. I don't think I'm gonna hold much more clout than.
So I just meant that he's been informed, that's all I did.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Cause that's what the whole change of the UTEP was, to establish that communication.
Nope.
So as long as
And
we've
that's
been there on.
I just wanted him to have that conversation, because he had it
That's
firsthand.
So to be
He
clear,
knows what my intent was for sure.
to be clear, Kingsbury's position is without jobs, they don't believe in pilots. It's not a broad term, it's based on if they're looking at a pilot, they want to see jobs created by it. So
So the UTEP says Appendix A is referenced as list of municipalities requiring approval of standard and enhanced pilots. So Kingsbury's on there for Bill Nicholas's project. They also didn't approve of a pilot, but we incentivized that project with respect to sales tax
right,
and mortgage supporting tax.
Any more questions? Brian,
I'm good.
go around the room. You got any questions? Good. One final question. You did talk about we would not be able to move forward without IDA assistance due to the rising cost of material and labor. Can you just speak on that for just 1 or 2 more minutes on your assessment with that?
I can. We've thrown a few budgets around, and got quite a few quotes, from different people. Our budget that we're working on with MBT Bank is at a $1.8 million, budget. I'm hoping that we don't even come close to that, but that's kind of where we're at as a safety net to make sure if that happens. At that rate, it makes the project, it's definitely not a get rich quick scheme of any sort whatsoever. It makes things a little bit more challenging, and to take on a business, without any help, I wouldn't see returns for a very long time. It just doesn't make great business sense without the help from you guys and the grant company for sure. So I'm an acceptance of whatever you guys can do to help us out to make our numbers a little bit better. They're not gonna be great anyways, but they're gonna be there. And it's just the development of the building and creating housing, and the fact that down the road, 10 years or so, then we'll probably see something come in. So, we'll have our fruition, things will work out. This is gonna take longer. So, and it's a lot of money to throw on the table. It's a lot of work. And I can see a lot of people shying away from something like this, but I can see into the future, and I know that if it doesn't work now in 10 years, I mean, it will work. It just won't be the amount of money that everybody thinks someone would be making on a 10-unit apartment. It's just not, it's not feasible. So anything I can get for help will help make that work a lot better for us.
Great. Any final questions?
Well, it's 12,000 square feet. That's about 150 a square foot for that full renovation. Yeah, that's pretty tight.
Well, it is, once we get all of our minorities and, women-based businesses and all that, in place, and everyone's satisfied with that, we can cut a lot of costs because my guys do all of that stuff also. We do everything. So I can trim tremendously off of that if I have to try to make those numbers a little looser. At 1.8, I know I can come in under that. I just want to see how much under that I can. If I thought that was my true number, I'd really be looking at this a little bit differently than what I am. But I know that once we can take care of those minority-based businesses and everything else, and I do I'm affiliated with a lot of contractors. We do a lot of work for a lot of different contractors and businesses in the area that may not be minority-based businesses, but I know that I can come in with some of their help to keep my numbers down. And that's my major goal. I just want to get things moving to see where we're actually going to fall in place, because it's like shooting, a dart at the dartboard and hoping that everything that you figured out is exactly the way it's going to work. And it just doesn't work that way in the real world. So that's, that's kind of where we're at. We just want to make sure we have as much help as we can, so it makes sense. And it does make sense, but just want to be worth it.
Great, thank you. Any final questions? All right, I would entertain a motion for the resolution accepting an application for assistance submitted by Everything Underfoot LLC and authorizing a public hearing. Dave, second. Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
Me.
Tim, abstain? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bill.
Other than
Take
that,
care.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, moving on. We have the TDI soil storage proposal. This is a Q&A session only, and we'll have Chuck make the introductions.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I have a prepared statement, so bear with me as I read it. Our Canal Side Energy Park tenant TDI, also known as Transmission Developers, a subsidiary of Blackstone, that is leading the $6 billion CHPE, which stands for Champlain Hudson Power Express project. It's an electricity transmission line project from Quebec to New York City. Has asked if soil from the trenching of the ditch for the electric cables could be temporarily stockpiled at Canal Side before it goes to its final destination, and that the Canal Side lease be amended accordingly. TDI representatives Josh Bagnano, I apologize, Senior Vice President of Development, and Mike Merritt, all right, Senior Project Manager of Construction, and possibly others. There are two representatives on the phone, consultants, TDI employees. We'll describe the proposed storage plan and answer questions shortly. The Warren Washington IDA board recognized that the TDI proposed lease modification would require outside expert due diligence. At the March 18th board meeting, after executive session, the board approved an expense reimbursement agreement with TDI CHPE. The Warren Washington IDA retained outside experts Andrew Millspaugh, a certified professional engineer from Sterling Environmental Engineering, and Tom Lasowitz, senior counsel from Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth, who specializes in environmental matters. Tom is on the phone. And then after Josh and Mike explain the proposed project, Andrew and Tom will provide their thoughts and answer any questions. The purpose of this presentation and answering questions session is to first introduce the proposed project to the board, and second, listen to initial feedback from the board to guide the next steps with TDI and CHPE. With that, I'll turn it over to Josh.
Yeah, just on the phone, we have David Liberty, who is the Kiewit Environmental Manager, and we have Mark Swallow, the Design Manager from Kiewit.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck, very much. Nice to see everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for giving us some time. We have 5 slides here, so this is not going to be that long. We'll move through quickly. So it's nice to be back here. I think I've been here 4, 5, 6 times over the last half a decade. I think our project and the Warren Washington IDA have had a good partnership. We've agreed to a pilot agreement, which I think is mutually beneficial. That was a difficult negotiation, but I think we got to a really good point, and we're proud of that. We've leased, I think, about 8 acres at the Canal Side. And right now we're, as you probably have noticed, started construction on CHPE in Washington County. We have about 500 people working out there right now. And most of the effort is, not most, but a good part of it is in Washington County. So we're really happy this project is finally happening. And we're really happy for this IDA support over the last, not only the IDA, but the local towns, the county, over the last 5, 6 years. So, and in 2 years, we'll be celebrating a ribbon cutting Why are what are we here to talk about today? If we go to the next slide, please, Kara, whoever's managing this, Chuck. So we want to expand our lease, and take advantage of an area on your property that was specifically designed for soil storage. We're digging a trench that's 150 miles long on the upland. Most of that soil has to be taken out of the trench and disposed of somewhere. Most of it cannot go back into the trench. The work areas that we have are generally along the road right away, so it's very, very narrow. So we've got to excavate the soil, we got to get it in trucks, and we got to get it out of there. Soil is regulated heavily in New York, so where we bring that soil is very specific, and it quickly gets very complicated, which is why we have technical experts here to answer questions. So we want to, right now we're leasing, as you probably know, we're leasing this area here, we're leasing this area here, and we want to lease this area here, which has 3 bins, 1, 2, and 3, as well as a stormwater retention system there, which we can talk about. So as Chuck said, we put a lease in front of the IDA. You guys asked us, you said this is what you need to pay. We agreed to that. We agreed to those terms. We've got a reimbursement agreement in place. I think we put $10,000 into that reimbursement account already to pay for your experts. And we understand the IDA wants due diligence on this to make sure that this works out from your end as well. If we can reach lease terms with you folks, we still need to get approvals from the state of New York, which would include oversight by the DEC. We need to get a stormwater approved by the town of Fort Edward. So as you can imagine, this is a heavily regulated project, and the soil disposal piece of the project is also heavily regulated. We just go to the next slide. So kind of went over the first couple bullets here, but everything we do related to soil, pretty much everything we do related to this project is overseen by the state of New York. They have inspectors out in the field every single day. Everything we do has to basically get reviewed and approved. As how we would like to use this site, if we can reach agreement, is to temporarily store soil, as Chuck said, 12 months. That's kind of the regulatory niche that we need to fit into. If it's longer than 12 months, we get into a whole nother approval process. So soil would go there, and then it would move to its ultimate destination. You're wondering, why would we want to temporarily put soil there instead of just put it to its permanent location? There's some logistical issues we have. Sometimes we're moving soil at night. We have night shifts that we'll have to work. Some of the soil disposal areas that we currently use are closed, so we need a place to move the soil at night, weekends, and just basically extra capacity, because some of these soil disposal sites only take so much soil per day. So this is sort of a temporary soil storage area. The technical guys will go into how we intend to use this, but there's basically different bins would accept different types of soil. So there's soil, kind of quote unquote cleaner soil, which is fill type 1 and type 2. We would use bin 1, which is
The last slide. Do you want me to go down?
yeah,
Oh, this slide?
yeah.
This one?
So for the fill type 1, we would use bin 1 and then the existing stormwater system. For fill type, for the other soils, which we'll get into, we'd use bin 2 and 3, and we would create this entirely watertight system. So such that no water could basically leave the site that has touched the soil in bins 2 and 3. And I'll let Mike and the guys on the phone go more into this. I guess what I would, opening comments, summary comments. You guys, as I understand it, are concerned about long-term liability. We bring in soil, rain hits the soil. That rain has some soil in it. That soil might be contaminated, and then that is left on your property and you're left with a liability, right? I think that's the general concern. We believe with the technical improvements we will make to the system, the soil plan we will implement, the lease, which will give you protections, and the oversight from the state. And if you guys want additional oversight to make sure that everything we say we're going to do, we actually do, you are protected from that. So we're confident we can do this, such that there's no long-term liability assumed by the IDA. It's a big project. It's a complicated project. We have world-class professionals working on this project. So this is not something that we're just going to come here, make a mess and say, sorry, guys, good luck cleaning it up, right? We have an obligation under the lease, we have an obligation to the state, and we'll do this the right way. So that's kind of the high level summary. Mike, I guess we'll go a little bit into the types of
Yeah.
soil and then how we're gonna handle this.
We got a
Wait a
quick
minute,
question
questions
if you're,
first.
if you're okay with the question.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to get back to and thanks for the compliment on the tough negotiation. I appreciate that. The reason we're so sensitive is because this site is covered what's called geez, I can't remember the name now. It's an agreement with the state that for the term of from lifetime on, there is an agreement that GE will be responsible for removing any PCBs that occur in the period of the site. So one of my concerns is number one, if we have other environmental issues come in there, we may avoid this consent decree from New York State and DEC and EPA with GE. It would compromise that. And there have been numerous environmental studies done on the site, and it's clear now. The concern is if there's leaking towards it, it could jeopardize the value of the site and what we're trying to accomplish here. So I want to be specific about why the reasons were. It's not just because of yours. I would say this to Craig, if he was trying to bring soil in there. So we have concerns about that. We need to make sure that process is done. But I also know that you're trying to escalate your program. And I have questions on what the timing is to get this done and get this up and running. I mean, we started talking about this and I think it was February. And all of a sudden, here we are 2 months later, you're going to escalate your construction process, as I understood it right about now.
We're gonna start ramping up, right? April was our time frame where DOT opens up, right? We can get back on the state road. So all these crews are coming in. We're actually, I think 100 craft a month are coming onto the project. So starting in April.
Yeah, I mean,
Now
this
it's
is,
our ramp up.
So my concern is once you drop that date, to be able to utilize
I
the
mean,
site.
it's past, right? We understand you guys need to do your due diligence, but this is, I'll just be honest, it's taking too long for us, right? We have a soil issue. We want to use the site. The site was designed to hold soil. The state, we've talked to the state, they think it's a great place to store soil. It was built for it, right? We understand you have to take your time. You got to protect yourself, but to answer your question, Dave, like we would be using this site now if we got the lease done.
Yes.
So
Currently, we're not working weekends right now because we have nowhere to bring the soil, right? So on Saturdays, Clean Earth, Waste Management are both closed, right? So we cannot excavate on the weekends. If we got this lease signed, we'd be, hauling there on Saturday. Monday morning, there'd be another turnaround of trucks. They'd be getting loaded and hauling out to the landfills.
So what's the approval process for the state? You have to go through every step of that.
yeah, so we've briefed the DEC on this and we've shared our emails and letters with the DEC. That happened a while ago. So some of this kind of containerized watertight system that Andrew and Mike and others have come up with to address your concerns, we would have to put that in front of the state. So they have to approve something called a change notice. And we think that's a low risk proposition. So we need to get the MS4, which is the local stormwater approval from Port Edward. And we need to submit a change notice and then the state will approve it. And they'll approve the stormwater component of it, plus just the soil management component of it. So it would be lease, Port Edward stormwater approval, state change notice approval, then we can use it.
Yes.
So
So the stormwater has already been submitted, right, for scenario one. So scenario one, we thought that the stormwater was all gonna work. All the water was gonna run off and go into here. We found out that this has been punched through and there's an overflow that could go out to the canal. So now we'll get into this, but we're gonna revamp it. And in between these concrete walls here are drains, right, that blow out from here and go down. So what we're gonna do is plug these drains in each wall. And we're gonna line up frac tanks out here, right? And we're gonna pump the water from in between these walls into the frac tank so there's no spill. So now we have to go back with the SWIP back to the town of Port Edwards to get it amended.
So the pond on the right is no longer a part of the equation.
Yeah, not to confuse anybody, but this will be part of the equation for number one.
Number one, which is the clean.
Yes.
So let's just go back to the slide before, just to talk a little bit about the types of soil we would bring here. And I don't know if you want David to talk about it, or if you're gonna walk through it. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I can walk through some of it. And David, you're on the call still?
Yeah, Mike, I am.
Okay, sorry, on the screen here, we can't see all the attendees.
You want, this is the chart you want here?
Yeah, please. David, you want to walk us through the fill types here and then I'll jump in, or?
Sure, absolutely. So the intent between fill type 1, type 2, these are primarily soils that we're going to be reusing. So they typically are considered unrestricted in New York, following DER 10 and also the Part 360 guidance documents, where once they're excavated, temporarily stockpiled, then we have additional properties where we can reuse the material. So that's kind of one consideration for the material that's being tested. The second type of material that we typically are encountering are materials that we know are going to need to be disposed of at a landfill under restricted criteria. So whether that's residential restricted, commercial, industrial, materials that we know will need to go to a landfill, in addition to, will all be tested and be below hazardous levels in terms of soil disposal. So that's really the two types of materials, is really that fill types, whether it's type 1, type 2, or type 3 that we're planning to reuse, or materials that we know are going to be destined for landfill.
Thank you, David.
Yep.
Chuck, can you go back to that last slide again, please? No, the next one with the picture.
Sorry, the wrong way.
Okay, so let's talk about what we're gonna be using these bins for. So when we say we're gonna use bin 1, it's gonna be for fill type 1 or 2, right? So that's coming from the DOT roadways, private property, or CP railroad. So in those 3 locations, we're testing for anything possible, right? We're taking soil samples every 740 feet. So we have those results back. That will be for bin number 1, because we'll know it's fill type 1 or 2, which the stormwater can go into the pond and can be dispersed anywhere, right? There's no contaminants. When we talk about soils on 2 and 3, that's mostly CSX railroad. So CSX does not want to know everything that's in their soil. So they give us a limited thing that we can test for, right? And when we get the test results, it says it's either hazardous or non-hazardous. So the non-hazardous material will be coming here, right? But it could be material that cannot be leached into here and into the canal afterwards. So that's where we're going to be using the frac tanks. We'll plug this off, make sure that no water can overflow. It'll be put into these frac tanks and tested. And once it's tested, if it's clean water, we can dump the water back. You know, it's a 5-day turnaround back into the pond, or it's going to be shipped off to a waste facility.
Let's just go to I think there's just one more slide. I think it's just helpful to kind of go over,
Back or front?
down.
Last slide. Yeah.
Last slide. So this is obviously soil management. I didn't fix the numbers. Forgot how to count
You
and
did it over the
CHP, we're
weekend.
so busy, yeah.
I want to do my budget like this.
I did it over the weekend.
I wanna
It's
do
like, it's like a
pilots like
mind
that.
game here.
We
kind of
do.
Well, we would have,
You've noticed.
we would
I
have like
believe
3
that,
to 4
just kidding.
people working at this, and this is all the stuff that we have to do, right? So soil management is a huge part of the logistics of this project, and we gotta do it right, and we gotta do it per the regulations. If it's gonna rain 3 inches, we will have people there at night making sure the frac tanks don't overflow, right? Like, we will just have to pull this off the way that the plan says, and if you want, you can attach that plan to the lease so that you can enforce against it.
So we're gonna have 2 operators there full-time, 3 to 4 laborers there full-time. And like Josh said, we based this plan off of the 100-year flood. So it's, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, 6.5 inches of rain in a 24-hour period.
Yeah, it's gonna be upwardly 6 to 7 inches of rain.
So that's the frac tanks will be able to hold that much water. So that's where we came up with the, yes. But as you can see here, we're gonna be obviously tarping all the soil there that's on the site. So any of the rainfall that hits the tarp should be clean, right? But it will still go into the frac tank to be treated and tested.
What you're suggesting is the percentage of soil it's gonna be in the 3 different categories.
So those bins can hold up to 20,000 tons each.
No, but you can't expect that most of it's gonna be number 3. You must have a different idea of what each type is gonna be.
Oh, so
Of all
the
the,
first
of
bin,
all the, yeah, of all the soil
it's gonna
you
be field
handle.
type 1 and 2, right? So that's all reuse. Like you could bring that to Farmer Joe.
But do you think that 70% of all the soil is gonna come here, or do you think it's only 10% of those?
Oh, in the remaining 2 bins, we will not know that in bin 2 or 3, right? We're gonna know if it's hazardous or non-hazardous. That's what we'll know. And if it's not, that's the stuff we're Go ahead, Chuck.
I think Brian's asking about out in the field, what are you expecting?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So 3 fields.
we've tested from.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for the clarification. We tested areas one, so call it from Putnam Station down to Albany is what we have data for. About 70 to 75% of it is reuse that you can bring to a private property owner. About 30% of it has to go to a landfill as of now.
And you're probably only going from here to Albany. Other than that, you're gonna go somewhere else.
Yes and no,
Okay.
because there's a lot of limited space, right? Some landfills only can take 300 tons a day. Just on CP Railroad, just up north here, we have 10 crews generating 150 ton per day each crew. So we have 1,500 tons just on the railroad each day that we're generating. So we're capping a lot of these facilities out very quick throughout the day.
So during the week, you're not necessarily gonna empty any of these bins.
Well, yeah, so.
You're gonna try to empty them, but you may never catch up.
So we'll have the local crews, you know, the trucks that are designated for the job hauling here. Then we'll have tractor trailers, not assigned to anything, just getting loaded and hauling out. And we could be hauling it as far as Pennsylvania, you know, there's multiple places we'll be bringing all this material, so. It should be a quick turnaround, right? Haul it in, haul it out.
So brings me to a question is, I have a couple of questions. You're testing every 740 feet. Is there any spot testing done in between that? Because there could be hazardous in one area that is between the seven.
So we take the worst case scenario out of it, right? So if it says it's gonna be half of that distance is contaminated, he has taken that whole area as contaminated. So we're not producing, you know, material that's, we said was clean. We go through that whole
Are you gonna-
sample.
are you
And
gonna-
Mike, I would add that we're also doing field observations, so visual, olfactory identification, and then detection, with an instrument for volatile organics as well. So there's definitely field screening going on as we're excavating as well.
Thanks, Steve.
That answered the question about spot testing and recertifying what you've done.
How about night work at the site?
Say it again.
Are you gonna be working at night at the site? I mean, that could be problematic to people in Fort Edward.
So as of now, we're not working nights on the site, right? We'll have to go through approval with the New York DPS. We'll have to go through certain different approvals, but in area 1 and 2, we have no plans to work nights. Unless we're doing like an HCD or something for the, like on the WCC parcel, we're working on nighttime just due to the lease agreement, but
So 1 and 2 is where from Putnam down
Putnam to
to
Albany.
Albany?
Yep.
And I think what we're saying is like, I think that the biggest concern is if you have a massive rainstorm, you have to be making sure these frac tanks don't overflow, right? That's the whole point. We gotta keep the water contained until we can test it. So if you did have a massive storm, we would mobilize, you might have to have people working at night to make sure things don't.
Correct, but there wouldn't be truck traffic, all night
Right.
long throughout there. There could be a crew there, with pumps running. As you know, there's really no landowner.
On a counterbalance, it is an industrial site. It's been an industrial site since all those people bought the property.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's just like, this is what this site was really designed for, right? There's just not a lot of places around
And that's not,
upstate New York that have these features.
and that's not my answer. That answer comes from the town and the village. Industrial site, when you get.
Are you able to use the canal at all?
Oh, to move dirt? No, we're using the canal to move our HVDC cables up. Up in May, we're gonna start,
No.
so see this picture on the back? This is what's going up the canal next month. But I digress. This is marine construction. We're focused on terrestrial construction.
This is for the cool effect though. We do like it.
I have one serious question I don't know if we've addressed. Obviously, you're gonna substantially increase the traffic of heavy vehicles, heavily loaded vehicles. What protections do we have that if there's damage done, the roads both we own and towards the internal, there's roads we own that comes from 196 down just past the bridge. And then Fort Edward, town of Fort Edward also owns a part of it. What are the metrics to say that if there's damage done to the roads, that we're gonna be compensated for that? Or that's gonna
Agreement.
Yeah, it wouldn't cover this. Do we have anything in the lease agreements for the road damage? Yes, no?
I don't think there is right now.
We did have an issue early on with the bridge and you guys responded great, put the plates on the bridge because we were concerned about damage.
mean, if you want to add into this for your roads, we could do like a pre-road survey,
Okay.
post-road survey. We could put that into the lease.
I think that has to be in the,
It's fine.
What size trucks?
It's gonna be triaxles or trailer dumps.
Well, the bridge. Remember that?
Yeah, we're bringing in the reels.
Yeah.
The cable reels that are a lot heavier than the
Lot heavier than
triaxle. So,
they certified those when we first were talking about the wheels coming across there.
Yep.
Yeah, but there is a point where that bridge isn't gonna take much more. That's my question. 2 years of that might be enough, may end that bridge.
In 2 years, it's gonna be replaced.
yeah, there's a
Well, you're
plan that
hoping.
replaced soon, right?
Yeah. Well, I just don't wanna have to replace it in the middle of your job.
We do.
Yeah, but then bring your job to a halt.
We're gonna
We're
use
working with alternative
helicopters.
routes.
Anything else for the TDI team?
I do, so, there are big ramifications to this project. Big ramifications is that you have some deadlines you have to meet, or there's substantial penalties involved from both, I think, Quebec, and city, and, probably NYSERDA also, and public service also. So I guess my question is that how do we get to a point where we get our due diligence done in time frame that's not gonna delay this project? We've already got 6 months of delay, if I remember correctly. I'm gonna have a private conversation after this, but, I think that, we have to figure out how can we move this along. It's been going on since February. We need to get it in for their sake and for our sake, and $279 million worth of money that's coming into Washington County when this is starting to be successfully completed.
Absolutely wonderful question. Our due diligence guy is sitting to the left, Andrew, waiting for us to call him up so he can, tell us where he's at with due diligence. But do we have anything else for the TDI team while they're up there before they pass it on?
What,
You have to back this whole line?
Yeah, with thermal, float bill. Yes, with the TR for to keep the discipline. Yes, so no more dirt goes back down, dig it out, count everything, the float bill on, and there's about a foot of topping up.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And as a reminder, Andrew is our outside expert with Sterling Environmental Engineering. And as mentioned earlier, Tom Lasswood, Senior Counsel on the phone. So with that, Andrew, you take it away.
Yeah, so I guess it just overall, but the concept of what they're trying to do isn't complicated out of the box, you know, it's what this area was set up to do for holding dredge spoils. The various fill types that they discussed, fill types 1, 2, and even up to 3, I would throw in there, are all considered clean fills for reuse. Fill type 1 doesn't need any testing, determinations made on the spot that it's clean, it's soil, no indications of impacts. So if that was the only type of soil coming here, no issue with it. Fill type 2 and 3, even to those may have some unknown characteristics at the time of wherever it's coming from. But based on data, which they say they have data for certain right of ways to make this determination, fill type 2 is it's a residential and a protection of groundwater standard. So it can be reused on, essentially on the table, it can be used anywhere other than crops for growing food. So there's very low risk, and it's compared to protection of groundwater standards, which means that if it's placed below the groundwater table, it's not going to leach in. So there wouldn't be issues with water or managing water from that type of soil. Same for fill type 3. The only distinction there between 2 and 3 is fill type 3 can have other hard fill in it, can have pieces of asphalt, pieces of brick, pieces of concrete, but it's not contaminated soil. So if it was only fill types 1, 2, and 3 coming here, our opinion would be there would be no issue with runoff going into the ponds, which might be beneficial if you put the just the overall site plan back up. Because what was done with the prior use, because it was holding PCB soils, you know, it was holding soils contaminated with PCBs. That retention pond where the stormwater ran off to didn't discharge back to the canal at the time. So it's since been decommissioned to turn it into whatever use might come in the future to be more of just a standard stormwater feature. And the stormwater features collect stormwater and they discharge them back to the natural environment. So that's the concern here with the portion of fill that we're calling unknown. So it's coming from right of ways where I say only, but they're doing testing for hazardous waste characterization, because this is soil that they know they're going to send to a landfill. They just need to know what type of landfill it should go to. Hazardous versus non-hazardous, just because it's non-hazardous doesn't mean there's no impacts to it. So that's where the potential concern is, that it could meet non-hazardous criteria, but there could still be levels of contamination in the soil. So that's why part of the brainstorming for how to use this, since it's been decommissioned away from its prior use, is the soils that are going to be the undetermined soils, only characterized for hazardous or non-hazardous waste, the water running off that would be collected. That way it's not, the risk here, it's an asphalt pad that contains the water. The risk is just that the water coming off is going to carry contaminants off the property into the stormwater pond, which is connected to the natural environment. With that, I heard just, today, if there's a longstanding consent order, or consent decree with long-term liability and things related to PCBs. PCBs are part of the hazardous waste testing. So if that data is being generated, there will be knowledge of the PCB content of the soils coming to this property. So if there is a concern with that, potentially there is a way to carve out a portion of that soil that if it exceeds a certain PCB limit, that it wouldn't come here. I don't know if that's possible, but there would have to be a known release or a known condition on the right of way of wherever this is coming from for it to be impacted with PCBs. So, not knowing every linear foot of this alignment, it's not unfeasible that there could be PCBs in the soil, but that'd be an easy thing to screen based on the data. So that is something that potentially could be a screening metric there for that type of unknown soil. So I guess that's where we're at. The overall concept is pretty straightforward. It's conservative, looking at, a 7-inch rainfall, being able to manage that amount of water. While as a single event is not very common, but with the intense rainfalls we get these days, getting 3 2-inch rainfalls 3 days in a row or 4 days in a row is feasible. So we want to have that capacity there to accommodate that kind of event. I guess any questions?
So on the PCBs, the general content of PCBs was dredged out of Hudson River and down through. Majority of the PCBs were discharged into the river back when it was okay to discharge PCBs. Yep. So if you look at the areas where GE had their sites, basically on the Hudson River, and that's where the lion's share of the PCBs were, not discounted and maybe there, but I do not think that on the path you're going down through. Because I understand that there's much danger of PCBs.
Right. And and that data will be generated as part of the waste characterization standpoint.
Any PFAS?
That is a question for, I guess, your environmental team. If the landfills you're using or the disposal sites are asking you to test for PFAS.
So it's only a DEC recommendation at this time, so we're not required by the landfills.
Another question is, you said that the membranes underneath the ponds have been punctured.
Well, my understanding is the pond itself has been decommissioned from being a waste, like a water treatment system. So I don't know the exact details of if the liner was punctured or removed, but that it's not functioning as a retention basin. Now it's been converted to an infiltration basin.
Another question, because I do know that membrane was punctured in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
And they're testing to get to the consent order. So I'm not sure where those punctures were. Were the punctures under the bins or not? I don't know, but.
Oh, right, with the overall sampling program at the end, I do believe they did puncture through the asphalt pad to do that sampling. Those would have been probably cold patch filled in at the time when they did that. But I would think similar to the road use question, we'd want a thorough, pre-use visual.
We would want to do that to protect our staff, frankly.
Right. Yeah. And anywhere where there are like multiple aging cracks or you might want to get a seal coating, get something in there and just seal up those things before you use it.
So I guess my question is, when do you see the end of your part of it?
Well, I guess my end of it is when the idea is comfortable, or all your questions are answered. I do think it's for the size of this, and one question that I have for the CHP team, coming out of this, is just what the overall throughput of soil is going to be. Like, you know, one cubic yard coming in can't be there for more than 12 months, but it sounds like it's gonna be a pretty steady stream in and out. Just what the overall, and this will go into the traffic too, of coming up with that estimate, just what the overall tonnage is gonna be through the property.
Yeah, and if I could add to that question, there is the opportunity for us to retain Andrew to periodically monitor how the operation is progressing. I would recommend that. Because once we approve this, that's it. We have every reason to believe TDI, CHP will adhere to the procedures, but perhaps we should have someone just double checking.
I mean, Chuck, if I could offer, if we have a reimbursement agreement in place with you guys, if you guys want us to add a reasonable amount of money in there, so you can keep Andrew or somebody else on to make sure that the plans we're following through, you guys can do spot checks or whatever, we're happy to accommodate that. The state will be there, but if you want to have your own person that reports to you there, that's fine too.
Yeah, because the overall regulatory framework is pretty well defined for how this can all happen. But the scope of this project is large, and it is, in my opinion, it is a pretty complex record-keeping exercise. Like, you're having to keep track of, you know, soil coming from this crew, manifesting to that truck, knowing what bin it's going in. You know, it's a lot of record keeping and keeping track of everything. So the overall concept is not complicated. You know, keeping soil on a pad, managing water, that's standard construction practice. But the overall record keeping, to have the level of comfort to make sure there's not an issue down the line of you know, quote unquote hot loads or things like that, you know, ending up here. That's what I see as the logistical issue, and just to keep track of.
So Andrew, you're the expert. When do you think we've had the major questions answered? Are there anything outstanding we should be asking? We have to get a drop dead date for you too.
Yep. To me, it sounds like I've posed a couple of questions to them leading up to this meeting in terms of just to the point of your question about the in between samples and having the onsite, you know, who's observing, you know, just to make sure we have a full understanding of the level of oversight that's going into the soils coming out of the truck. Coming out of the ground, going into a truck with someone saying this goes to Ford, or this goes to a landfill. This, you know, have that level of comfort. But I think from the technical standpoint, I'm pretty close to being there. Then it sounds like it's more of the lease agreement side of things, which I can provide some commentary and assistance on in terms of like the road use and pre and post inspection and things like that. But then it comes down to, I guess, lawyers at that point. But from the technical standpoint, pretty close.
I miss the days of handshakes.
So I got a question on the timeline. So this will go on the whole time this project is going on?
It will start to die down. It will be heavy for a year, right? And then we'll start to die down after the year goes through.
So by the time you do your ribbon cutting, this part will be finished?
It should be.
Yeah, I mean, we have to get this project operational May 2026. Most of the dirt will have been, if we're still moving dirt in 2026, we're way behind schedule.
But there's nothing that has to stay there for a period of time, it's just in and out.
We may ask for the lease to go to 2027, just to give ourselves time
To clean
to
everything
clean
up.
it all up, right? If we're scrambling in the spring, maybe we just don't worry about the dirt for 4 months and come back in, right? So I think we've asked for May 2027 as the lease end date, and that's why. I don't think we need it there, but we'd rather have. I mean, Dave, you sort of asked, what can you guys do to sort of expedite it? Because we're at that point here. You know, we would ask you to consider if you can authorize the chair or Chuck to sign the lease if your lawyers and your environmental consultants say that they can. So we don't have to wait for these meetings to happen every 2 weeks. Maybe your meeting is, an agenda's full, maybe you don't have a quorum, you know, things like that happen all the time. So if you can authorize, you guys can consider authorizing him to sign the lease or Juan to sign the lease if your experts are on board, that's very helpful. Then we don't have to deal with, you know, meet your meeting times.
Craig?
Well, that was kind of my question. Where do we go from here? So is there already a lease in hand that's being reviewed between all the attorneys?
There's a proposed lease amendment that was in place or that was presented. Tom is in the process of making modifications to it to present back to CHPE. I know Andrew has emailed some provisions that he would like to see included into that agreement as well. And I think we'll just connect after this meeting about anything else that needs to be added based on today's conversation. But that's where we're at this point.
No,
And we have nailed down the fee and the term and like dates as well as
The
basic terms.
number we talked, right now, the land is being leased at $1,400 per acre per month. We thought with this application, we offered 2,000. It's, I believe, 4.3 acres. It's only those 3 bins, but it's that first portion of Selling Pond. I believe that's 4.3 acres. So it's $8,600 per month, be about $103,000 per year. So that's currently what's on the table. We came up with those numbers before this assessment. Now we know what the site's being used for. We understand the risk profile. So as long as the board is comfortable with the proposed rental rate of 2,000, we're in good shape.
I'm not as interested in the money we're getting in, it's the protections we have in the contract.
Understood.
And how much time did we add to the agreement if we want to have a pre-survey on the road? And potential language on what happens if the road is damaged anyway, what's the reimbursement rate? Does that add time to the schedule, either Tom or Kara? Because I can't answer that question.
You mean for pre-testing and things like that before they could start utilizing the?
It's not pre-testing. We were talking about, they talked about, expressed my concerns about the road
Mhm.
and potential damage caused by a huge number of unanticipated traffic when we did this. We should have that protection in place with this agreement.
Yeah, I mean, we can get those kind of surveys done quickly. See, the thing for us, we need to get a lease with you guys or not get a lease with you guys. The state's obviously not gonna approve a change notice to use your land without a lease. So, you know, the lease to me is number one. We can do some of the other stuff in parallel, but we're not gonna get approvals until the lease is done. Then the lease is gonna have things in it that we have to do. Seal the cracks, put in the pumps, bring in the frac tanks, do the pre-road survey. So that's a whole nother set of stuff we gotta schedule and get done, get the logistics plan in place. So there's a lot of work, but like, we can't hit the starting gun until we get the lease.
Well, I could offer, maybe we could do contingent upon, if the board comfortable with the direction this is going in. Then we, in our lease, we could say the operation will start contingent upon a few things being completed. That way we can run in parallel and meet the time frame, but still come up with a mutually beneficial agreement.
But we still have to approve the basic lease.
Yes, we
Right.
do. And all the liability coverages.
And we have a real estate attorney from Bond, Shennick and King out of Albany, and then we have an environmental soil expert, Young Summer out of Albany. So we have those two folks who can be the counterparts to.
Yeah, I think, and Tom has been in discussions with Beth.
Of course, yeah.
So
Yeah,
And
this is
just-
Tom. I expect to have a list, a bullet list of items to go into the lease. I'm shooting to have that by the end of this week for everybody to look at. And Andrew has contributed to that as well. And I certainly picked up quite a few things this afternoon. So I hopefully will have an outline, and then drafting the actual language should not be a problem.
And if I could add one thing to make the board comfortable, if the board's not comfortable yet doing a pre-approval, we are gonna have a meeting 2 weeks from Wednesday on May first, and it'll be a special board meeting because of the everything underfoot application. So we don't have, my point being is we don't have to wait 4 weeks for our next formal board meeting. We'll have May first. But meanwhile, we can still run hard between now and May first, and I doubt frankly, we could slow anything up without formal board approval. Waiting 2 weeks, I think would be fine, given all the work that's necessary.
Yeah, what happens if you don't have a quorum on May first?
And we don't have a quorum on May first.
I already slipped it, so I'd be more comfortable getting carried to suggest some language where we do have pre-approval that if the attorneys are satisfied and we can do a sampling of the board to make sure they're comfortable, that they could proceed with signing it. Kara, what do you think?
Well, that would mean you would have to prove it today.
Yes.
When was the last time we didn't have a quorum, just to add some balance here?
It's always the time you don't expect.
Yes. Well, the world game tomorrow too, and we can, but let's be realistic here. We haven't had, we haven't missed a quorum in ever.
Yeah.
So I'm not
That's
saying,
not true.
I'm not saying
That's not true, Juan. We have missed forums.
within the last, how long
Do
ago?
we have enough information to make? a
And that's
decision
really the question that Andrew, is there enough information here today for the board to consider the lease to help move this process along?
In my opinion, I think there is. I think there, there's been a wealth of information that I've gotten since I've been brought on board. I have a pretty good understanding of what they're trying to do here and where the information needs are to fill out some of the questions. But I think overall, I think the information's there.
So can we do a resolution and then that, when the attorney's in the, upon approval? What's the usual ones that are given out? I'm drawing a blank right now.
I mean, it would
In a
be,
form acceptable
yeah,
to-
form of content approved by the attorneys and consultants.
Right.
I mean, I think we want to know, we being Tom and Andrew and I, that you are comfortable with the overall concept and use of the property, understand the lease term, understand the lease amounts. You want the added protections for the road, for Andrew to do site visits.
Party inspections, yeah.
Third-party inspections, the pre-road, or that's the survey, the pre-road survey. And then, is there anything else that you wanted added specifically?
That's the plan to the lease.
Yep, the
Yeah.
plan to the lease.
Do you say PCB levels? Do we have any concern with the PCB issue?
Do you have a copy of that consent order that you can?
Yeah, I have it. I can
Okay.
forward it to you.
I know you've got it.
So, do any board members have any major concerns at this moment?
Yeah,
Please.
so if you're only talking about $300,000 over the whole total thing, is there any bonding for any liability that could happen out of this? Cause 300,000 wouldn't pay for much. If something comes out of this that's negative.
Tom, did you guys have any discussions about if there is a situation of contamination?
We talked about it briefly. We did not discuss bonding specifically.
What did you discuss then?
Putting in language that they would leave the site. We would do an inventory of what the site is now, and they would leave the site at the same as it is now or better condition. Essentially, that was the language we were going to put in there. Entire
Yes.
cleanup.
Good. Any other questions? Any major concerns? All right,
So do we need a resolution off the floor at this time?
we would entertain a motion, let me stutter through this one, for a resolution to allow the chair to sign the lease contingent upon the environmental and lawyers' review of the lease to add in the stipulations for today. And in parentheses, the chair will send the lease to the board members for 24 hours to review prior to signing the lease. And I would entertain a motion to accept that resolution. So second. Brian, second. All in favor? It is a lease amendment, so we will have to take a roll call.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dave O'Brien,
Yes.
Tim Robinson,
Yes.
Craig Leggett,
Yes.
Trisha Rogers. Yes. John Taplin,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes. Motion passes. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you
very much. And just one thing I do want to say, Chuck and Juan have been really available for us over the last 6 weeks on this. They've had multiple meetings. When we've asked to chat, they've gotten right back to us, so we really appreciate that. Thank you. Nice to see some of you folks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And any complaints about construction, call Mike.
And you're gonna see your phone
Thank you.
number.
Thank you.
All right,
For the meeting.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we've got quite a few other topics. Those on the phone, thank you so much. If you have to drop, no worries. We will continue moving
Okay.
on. Canal Side Master Plan update. It's a big week for us for Fast New York. We continue to update the entire board via email. Tomorrow will be the public hearing, and then on 17 April will be the Public Authorities Control Board. We'll have another update to the team after this week. And all's going well. We haven't heard anything otherwise. Our grant of the three Fast New York's grant is 4.7 mil. The one after us is 56 mil, and the one after that is 14 mil. So small grant compared to the other two. So all looking good. We'll continue to update the team. No other items for the Canal Side Master Plan update. Does anybody have any questions? Great. Moving on, Canal Side Maintenance update. Chuck.
I'll be fairly brief here too. We had talked at the executive committee meeting 2 weeks ago to start advancing the maintenance RFP. It's in draft. You also might recall, we have an outstanding issue with National Grid. You talk about maintenance responsibilities. We did receive an email this morning and we are digesting that information. The team will need a little bit more time to look at that before we can report out on it. And that's it for me, unless there are any questions.
Good. Moving on, Canal Side tenant activity. Chuck.
On the tenant activity, also not much news. As we've pointed out in the past, we've provided tours over the past 2 months. There's been no formal response to those tours, so I have nothing else to report.
Anybody have any questions for Chuck on tenant activity for Canal Side?
Well, right now, with all that's gonna go on through May of 27, they're taking up a lot of space. I can't imagine there's gonna be a lot. able
Yeah,
to
the only
do
space that we're gonna have left is the 41,000 square foot building and the area
But
around
they're
it.
in and around it quite a
Right.
bit too.
Yeah, they are, but it still is accessible.
Okay.
But to your point, the majority of the property is under lease.
And one of those lessees had interest in the property. Is that tenant activity?
Our
Well,
electric,
This one certainly being CHPE, of course.
our electric.
So like,
Yeah, we are in the process of looking at that arrangement, more to report out after we talk with the executive park committee.
All right. Any other questions? Good. Moving on, Airport Industrial Park. Kara, any updates on the merge or Colum or Hilltop?
The merge is complete, that is done. And Clom, we are waiting on confirmation from his attorney as to how they want to take title. And Hilltop, we are waiting for them to get back to us with their approvals from the town to see if they are doing in fact outdoor storage. They'll need to come back with their town approval and request an variance if they are looking for the outdoor approval,
Anybody have,
or variance, sorry, outdoor.
anybody have any questions on that one? Those topics? All right, lot purchase application updates, Chuck.
So as a reminder, we received a formal application from Obex Holding to buy 4 lots on the south or right side of Ferguson Lane. Kara and Juan and I had a conference call with the group, and they're in the process of putting together their conceptual plan that they will then need to show us and also show possibly a local planning board. So they are in engineering phase right now. I believe it will take a couple more months before we hear back from them. That's it, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? All right, ongoing business. Moving on to any ongoing business for anybody. All right, new business, sales tax exemption report. Ally.
Yes, in your package, you'll see, the sales tax exemption reporting chart. I have highlighted two projects that I'm having issues with, Sun Valley Apartments. They have, reported to be over their allotted amount. However, I did receive an email from Mr. Grasso earlier today saying that that number that he had provided is incorrect. He is currently in the process of auditing 19 requisitions because he believes some of them sales tax had been paid. And so I'll be receiving an adjustment for that. So this is as accurate as I have right now, but it's due to change. And I've also highlighted native development. I have asked Tim Barber, Steve Springer, their accountant, Peter Barber, many times through phone, through email. I've had Chuck assist me in trying to get information as far as how much they've claimed for 2023. I have yet to receive an ST 340 from them.
I would suggest our attorney write them a letter. And we can say we could go to recapture if we don't report. I think it needs to be a strong message.
Any other questions? Or any questions?
Didn't they just, ask for an extension?
Yeah.
So possible they didn't have anything, not that they don't have to report it, but
You'll have to report nothing.
yeah,
I
no, that's
did-
what I said. But
I have had several conversations with Peter Barber, their accountant, and I did specify, even if it's zero, I need a form that says zero. Yes.
Yeah, they had,
And you can
sorry.
see they,
go ahead, no, you're fine.
they're, we're only looking for reporting from 11/3 to 12/31 of 2023. I'm still not able to get it. I keep getting told they're working on it.
strong letter will help.
Got it.
Anything else on the sales tax exemption report?
I will report, I drove through the Sun Valley apartment site this weekend and it's beautiful. You ought to stop, the construction's done and tenants are in. You ought to take a look. It looks wonderful.
2/3 leased, I think.
Which was it?
Sun Valley and Lake George, right across
because
from
of
the
the-
elementary school.
Okay.
Move in during the winter, people did jump on it right away, but they were 2/3 leased and should be fully occupied by the end of the year.
Good. All right, we'll turn it over to Kara for the NBRC authorized official resolution.
Okay, so there's a resolution in your packet that authorizes Juan Gonzalez as the chairman to act on behalf of the agency to sign any documents required by the Northern Borders Regional Development Agency for the Canal Side Master Plan project. This resolution was proposed by them. This is the language they want. They want the chairman specifically referenced. So this authorizes the chair to sign everything.
I'll move it.
Second,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all in favor? Any opposed or abstain? All right, Kara with the 18 hospitality subordination resolution.
Okay, so 18 Hospitality LLC, this is Holiday Inn Express at exit 18. They are in the process of refinancing their existing mortgage. They have requested, we entered into a lease agreement with them in March 17th, 2017. And because we are in the chain of title, we're required to either subordinate to their new mortgage or to sign on and join on to it. They're not requesting any mortgage recording tax exemption. It's just for clear title and to secure the bank's interest. The lender is Adirondack Trust, but they've asked us to approve and sign whatever documentation the lender will need. They think they're gonna be closing on this within the next month. They're required to pay an administrative fee of $300 plus legal fees.
And there will be no new mortgage tax.
No, they're not asking for an exemption. If there is any, they'll either pay it, or depending on how it's structured, I'm not sure if it's an assignment, and so then there wouldn't be any due, I'm not sure.
Would entertain a motion to move that resolution. Brian, second. Dave, all in favor?
They did ask for it once before and they got upset because we didn't give it to them, so I'm surprised they didn't ask this time.
For the mortgage, wasn't it the other project? This is Holiday Inn, exit 18. That was home 2, I think. At 19. This is Jerry Nudi's project.
Oh, Jerry, okay.
All right. Resolution passes. Moving forward, Fort William Henry subordination resolution. Kara.
Okay, Fort William Henry is extending their line of credit with Glens Falls National Bank. Because it's for operating purposes, it's not really associated with our project, so it's not eligible for the mortgage tax exemption, so they're gonna be paying mortgage recording tax. But the bank has asked us to subordinate our lease to the mortgage for the line of credit that they'll put on record. Our lease agreement already includes subordination language, but most title companies and lenders want to see a separate document specifically acknowledging that we are subordinating our lease interest to their mortgage. And just like the other project, they'll be required to pay $300 to the IDA and cover the legal expenses.
So nothing out of the ordinary.
No, nope.
Love it.
Brian first. All right, John second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, you should ask for opposed or abstain.
Any opposed or abstain?
No.
Motion still carries. 2023 project closeout. Ally.
Okay, in your meeting packets, you have received little project blurbs about, what the IDA has approved for these projects and what their incentives had entailed. They have since expired, for lack of better terms. Their pilot has gone through the 10-year timeframe and they have terminated. And so this is a little write-up of what they were, estimation of how much they have received as far as incentives go, and what their final job count was in the year that they have completed their term with us. Are there any questions? Yes.
Well, some things like JNC Property Holdings,
Mhm.
this is what we're on here. Before the expansion 2013, they had 9 employees. In 2023, they had 4.
Correct, and then the
So is
second.
that going in the right direction?
No, they're
The
closing.
sentence right after that says that in 2023, they were in the process of closing their doors, and so they were, I don't want to say getting rid of their employees, but they were encouraging them to find other places to go because they knew they would be closing their doors, and they have since closed. So that's all they had at the end of 2023, which is good for those employees because that means that they were able to move on and get employed elsewhere.
Which their husbands and wives.
No, I toured the facility a few weeks ago and they reported everyone immediately found jobs. So all their people have found.
Is it totally vacant at the moment?
It's for sale.
It is for sale. They just had auction, I believe, last week for their equipment. And then the property is listed for sale at $1.2 million.
Great question, Craig. Appreciate you pointing that out. And there were 3 other ones that with great numbers as well. So just to continue to balance it out for everybody that's listening. There were 4 projects, 3 with great numbers and 1 did close, which we know is gonna happen in this area.
So question on that,
Yes.
because we're not, basically, we aren't allowed to sell to somebody speculative. In this case, the place has gone out of business Do we have any interaction back in there or only if somebody comes to us and wants to
Well,
buy?
they completed their 10-year.
Right.
The pilot, but if someone comes in and wants to do further investment, that building is expandable in the back. That's one of the reasons for my tour, to let them know whoever else comes in, perhaps we can do some further assistance. So it only be based upon the incremental investment that they do in the site.
Very interesting.
So what Brian's statement, I think, is we had no real ownership in that property. We were just in the chain of title,
Right, but it's a lease.
so we can't sell it.
Right.
I know we can't sell it, but it's just funny the way it's worded. Somebody can't speculatively buy a piece of property and hold it. But yeah, it's in our park, and if they just build it, then sell out, it's still in our park. And we have nothing to do with it then unless they come to us.
Well, just historically, the board has opted not to sell for speculative purposes. So I see what you're saying, but you
It's just
could,
interesting.
you're not
Yeah,
prohibited from doing it.
We're not selling it now, it was M&S selling the property.
Right. But it's
So they
still
can
in
sell
our
to a
park.
speculator.
Yeah,
We don't have restriction for them to sell it to someone else.
no, but they'd
It's
be
only
bound by the
us.
terms of the same restrictions and covenants that are on record.
Yeah.
Correct.
Very interesting.
Good. Anything else for project closeouts? Thank you, Ally. That was well done. All right, Athens Adirondack Dome application. This is a Q&A only.
So I have a prepared statement, so bear with me as I read through this. On April 9th, the Warren Washington IDA received a signed investment incentive application from Akron Sports, specifically 326 Sherman Avenue Associates LLC, to support the purchase and further development of the Adirondack Dome, built in 2004 on a 19-acre site off of Sherman Avenue. Akron Sports has established recreation facilities in Albany, Bethlehem, Colony, Latham, and Malta, with turfed indoor facilities serving as home for many clubs, colleges, and leagues. This is a unique application with a request of property tax exemption from not only incremental property improvements, but also base property taxes. This triggers a deviation from the IDA's uniform tax exempt policy and will require formal approval from the town of Queensbury. On February 9th, the owner and his attorney met with Queensbury Town Supervisor John Schrow and other town officials to discuss the incentive application. Mr. Schrow called on February 12th and indicated the town is supportive and asked the Akron team to review with the Queensbury School District. A meeting of school representatives was scheduled for today and has occurred, and I've received a call, and apparently the meeting went well. As for the IDA, we believe it's prudent that the town of Queensbury formally approve the Akron application before the IDA board accepts the application. If the town approves the application before the IDA special board meeting on May 1st, the application will be presented then to the board for acceptance and scheduling of the public hearing at the IDA board meeting on May 20th at the Warren County Municipal Building. The purpose of including the Akron Adirondack Dome application and finding statement on today's agenda is for the board to be aware of the application before public appearance at the Queensbury Town Board meeting very soon. So we wanted to make sure you're aware of this, rather, we did not want you to read about this in the media.
So is this a new dome or is this the one that's currently there?
Currently there.
Is this the one that you've paid for 3 times?
The one, and they're going to turf a field. So Akron's is purchasing it and they're gonna add additional investment into the facility.
The turf field's probably a couple $1 million at least.
In round numbers, the purchase price is about $2 million and the additional investment's another $1 million. So in your package, there was the application itself. There was an economic analysis that they did at our request, and then there's a finding statement. As you can tell from the finding statement, the anticipated impacts to the community far outweigh the overall benefits being provided. Again, when we do acceptance, we'll go further into it. We'll also have the applicant in the room. Again, we just want to make sure the board is aware of this before it went to the public with the town of Queensbury.
And you anticipate the town of Queensbury to be favorably?
From February 9th, they had their meeting. There was email exchange, there was phone calls. They understand the importance of the dome and the local recreational activities. And also appreciate some of the new ideas that Aframs is bringing to running the facility.
There were significant economic benefits within that package that we received.
Well, you really paid some out over the years. Do you know how much Warren County's put into that building?
Oh, I think it was about 200,000 ARPA. And
That was the last time, but how much before that?
There's money in occupancy tax into it.
and off tax, yeah.
And just to be clear, that of course benefited the current owner who is leaving the business. This is,
a
Yeah, you
this is
bailed
gonna
him
be-
out 3 times
this is
and now you
gonna
got
be a
paid
new
to sell it.
let me just point out, Nick waving his hand there. Nick, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I have a question. Go ahead, Nick.
Since we're making a jump here regarding the policy of taxes on property, shouldn't we actually change the policy a little bit? Otherwise, you're fighting this every single time somebody wants to do it.
The policy of the deviation for base taxes?
Yes.
I
I
mean,
think we should.
It's the case.
Go ahead. Well, Kara first.
well, I think that your UTEP has a provision that speaks to it. That would be the deviation request.
I'm gonna go farther. My
You're gonna go
personal-
what? You
I'm
what?
gonna go farther. My personal feeling is that I question whether we want to deviate on base taxes.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. And I'm
Well-
not sure that this would fit my criteria for even having to do that. I mean, I would consider that if we had a company that employed 50 people, 100 people who needs a bridge. I'm not sure this fits my parameters.
Great perspective. This is why we wanted to put this in front of the board as Q&A, and we'll let the town municipality that is being impacted, let that run this course with them, and then we will reengage on this topic. But Craig, let me get to you. We've been waiting patiently.
Right, so I'm not clear on what this base is and the application that Queensbury's being asked to approve. Is that not on our application, or they have a whole nother application?
No, it would be our application, and they have the application, they have the economic analysis, and they do have this finding statement. And in the finding statement, it's clearly delineated exactly what's being requested and the benefits to the community.
So what they're asking for is our pilot schedule usually says year 1, percentage of exemption, year 2, percentage of exemption on the improvement. So they always pay the tax on that base value. They are asking for set payments for a 10-year term that would be paid to the town, the county, and the school, not based on an improvement from the existing. It's actually a
On the
reduction.
total,
Yeah.
I would say.
which it wouldn't have to be a reduction. You just set it higher, but.
What, Brian?
I said
They're
it wouldn't
proposing
necess-
a schedule. of
They're
payment.
probably proposing a reduction, but it wouldn't have to be a reduction. I mean, if having a set fee is one thing, I guess what bothers me is there's a benefit to the whole thing. I get it. But Warren County taxpayers have kept the thing afloat the whole time. They've paid double what it should have cost already. The owner is actually profited from the county taxpayer in leaving. And then the county's gonna give more incentives again, and that's a tough pill to swallow.
And
That's why I think that's why a long time ago, we didn't touch the property because that was our out, you know?
Yeah.
So the applicant will be here at the next meeting to talk about if we haven't accepted the application. So some of your questions could be posed to the applicant. Just so you know, the total cost of all the incentives was less than 300,000, and the projected impact to the community is over $11 million. It's a 1-to-4 benefit ratio, 1-to-40 benefit ratio. So
Sounds good, but they've already paid $1 million, all right.
And I'm gonna say,
Dave,
that my position is if they want to reduce the base tax, they should go to the assessor. Let the assessor.
Yeah,
do it.
right.
We shouldn't be screwing around in base taxes.
Right.
That's my opinion, especially when there's no job saved.
when there's
I
no job, but
When there's
I
no
can't-
job-
I can't vote, but I say that too.
we're
And
not voting, this is Q and A
I've gotta
session.
go. Huh?
We knew this was not gonna be an easy one. Well, this is why we didn't want to put it in front of you and then have this conversation in one chunk. We've got some great input. We're gonna let the town, the municipality in question, run that course. And then we're gonna put the application in front of the team and should be some hard questions to ask. Tim?
The,
Okay,
the schedule that you have, that the proposed taxes, that's what they're presenting to the town.
correct.
So that'll be, so if the town says no, then
The town will be clearly aware of exactly what's being requested.
the other thing is there are jobs being created. In the report, at least. there are.
Correct. There's 8 full-time equivalents and there's 3
How many
full-time.
there, how many are employed there now?
4.
So increase-
well, Chuck, give it some thought. And I'll give it some thought tonight on the beach while I'm smoking a cigar.
All right, take care, Nick. Let's go around the room. Last round for this topic, as it's Q and A only. Who wants the final thoughts? Craig, Dave, somebody.
Yeah, when it comes on to assessments, yeah, this is a unique proposal. The town has the ability to also give tax breaks to any improvements on that property as well. 486 is.
Well, remember, we can do town, county, and school. And then we do sales tax and mortgage tax exemption. So the only thing the town technically do is with this town tax.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch the assessment part of the base tax at all. There's just,
Well, and this is why when the applicant came to us, we told them they need to talk with the town and school because we did not want to present it to our board unless the local town and school were on board. So I perhaps we let that take its course and then go from there.
Yeah, that's why this will be on the next one to give everybody time to consider what's going on here. And as next 2 weeks, we understand what the town and the school have final say there on their version, and then we'll bring it back to you.
May 1, is that where you're going?
May 1st is targeted. 2.5 weeks. So let it simmer.
We got a meeting that morning.
We do. It's good. All right, moving on. All right, staff reports. Chuck, CEO.
Okay, I know we're getting near 6. I'll be very quick. I'll only talk about 2 activities in the past month I've been to. April 28th, the North Warren Chamber Builders Breakfast held by Craig Leggett to talk about workforce housing. Huge turnout. 35, 40 people. Very good dialogue about local housing related issues.
Thanks for being
Yep. March 5th, meeting with Kerry Warner and Greenwich Regional Chamber President Ruling Graves on the development opportunities in the Greenwich region. As far as my engagements list that I always report out on, year to date, there's been 40 engagements, 13 manufacturing, 1 food and beverage, 4 hotel and resort, 8 tourism and recreation, 8 housing, 1 energy, and 5 other. Of those 40, I believe, hopefully 7 could be applications we'd see in 2004. Actually, the Afrins and everything underfoot are part of the 7 count. In 2005, hopefully 4 will be applicants. There are 17 that are unknown and 12 that I don't believe will be seen in application. As far as the pipeline list, there are 5 projects actively gave an application, including the 2 we've heard today. We have 13 developing possible project application. We have 7 exploring, and we have 12 that have decided not to proceed. Of that group, of the first 3, we have 6 in housing, 5 in tourism and recreation, 5 in hotel and resort, 1 possible bond, 5 in manufacturing, and 3 other. With that, any questions?
Staff reports, Ally.
my first one. First off, I want to thank everybody for the card that I got for my 5-year anniversary. It was such a surprise. I didn't even know it was my 5-year anniversary. It was, I know it was that month, but, that was very nice for me to, come in. and
Someone
see.
squealed on you.
Also, thank you so much for the flowers. I'm not sure, I wasn't here at the last board meeting. I was recovering from surgery and you all sent me flowers, delivered at my house. I don't know if you guys know that, but, thank you for that as well. That was nice. Now, as far as my staff reporting goes, I do have, day-to-day, really boring things that I'm not sure if you want to hear about, you know, the payables, the receivables, the payroll, the tax reporting. Do you guys want to hear that every month? Because nothing ever changes. So what I was thinking about doing, and that this is fluid, if there's anything you guys want me to incorporate, let me know. But the only thing that really stands out as far as what I've been doing, differently is, working on the Everything Underfoot application, with Mr. Smith, who was here today. And, also working with, EFPR on the audit, and then Mike McCarthy on the audit adjustments. So outside of those two things, everything has pretty much been, you know, meeting prep, minutes, you know, stuff like that. Do you have any specific questions that maybe I can answer?
No, with the write-up at the end of underfoot. On summary, it's great.
Thank you. My first one.
Really helpful.
Thank you.
I was thinking. Glad you didn't put it at the beginning of the application. That would have been the first. But,
Well, I mean, it's nice to know where he comes from before you read what the IDA thinks, but thank you.
Next time, how many keystrokes you do on the computer every day. Just
Yeah,
kidding,
I'll work
just
on
kidding.
that.
Alrighty. Do we have any other topics anybody wants to bring up?
You want to say, Chuck, thanks for coming. Juan, thanks for having Amy there as well. It was a good turnout, the Builders Breakfast. It's as we're all working towards this goal of being able to have some affordable workforce housing. This was a ground up. It was from the builders. What can we do? And we'll synthesize some of that material and see what we can turn it into.
Great. Anybody else? All right, public comments. Any public comments?
I got a bunch of people here who love hearing you guys, but they're on the beach, but they love hearing you. But after it got to be an hour, they left.
All right. Anyone wish to speak?
I don't blame them.
Is there anyone that wishes to be heard? All right, having called 3 times for public comments and hearing none, we will move on. I would make them entertain a motion to adjourn. Brian, second. Jim, all in favor?
Be
Opposed,
be well,
abstained?
kids. Be well.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks, Juan.
Thank you.